Hello, I want to talk about next gen. So next gen is here. I have an Xbox One, PS4, Wii U. Ouya counts as the seventh generation of consoles, according to Wikipedia, which is the governor of all that is true. No, I'm just kidding. But I think at least when I look at this generation of consoles, I honestly think Ouya is sort of the best uh, view of what the future of consoles will be. And I'm not saying that just because, oh, we're Ouya, free the games fund. I have reasons. Good reasons, hopefully. So, when you look at consoles right now, well, firstly, none of them are backwards. I mean, Xbox One and PS4 are not backwards compatible. Like, that kind of sucks. And like, to some extent, their feature sets are not as good as the previous generation. So, I mean, like, there's a lot of things in Xbox 360 and PS3 that I like that just aren't there in the new systems, which kind of stinks. And, I mean, maybe they'll be there at some point, but, like, it's not a sort of steady progression of, improving the experience. It's, sort of a spike type thing. And I think that this is sort of a bummer, and I think that, doing more incremental updates that are, lower priced is really going to be a more appealing future. And I mean, certainly you could look at iPads and, mobile phones and stuff, as a good sort of view of the future, so to speak. Because, I mean, like, everyone says, oh, you have to update your mobile phone every 2 years, and it's like, okay, that's fine. And people are like, oh, I don't want to upgrade my console every 2 years. And that's fine, too. But, I mean, you look at people are updating their iPad every 2 years, probably, maybe 3. And, computers, certainly those are lasting a lot longer unless you're, a PC gamer. And then it's like, oh my gosh, the new, GTX Titan 2 million came out, and, well, those are expensive cards. I don't usually buy the top end because I don't have that much disposable income. Someday I'll have my SLI. No, never SLI. But anyway, but I mean, like, there are things that people are willing to spend money on, willing to drop a good amount of money on in a sort of model where, they come out iteratively. And I think this is a big appeal because it stinks that I'm no longer able to play my Xbox 360 and my PS3 games on the new generation of consoles. And I mean, both publishers, or both console vendors, sort of poo-poo it, but I think it is appealing to consumers, to have just the one box hooked up, and I'm out of HDMI ports on my receiver, and it has like 6, and I mean, it's appealing, and then the other advantage is you get the new services with the new consoles, like, for example, you could get the Snap stuff. If I were able to play my Xbox 360 games on my Xbox One, I could do the Snap things and Skype, and I don't know. I don't actually do any of that, but I could. Or like the PS3 twitching and the Xbox One twitching, or PS4 twitching. I think those are appealing to me, and those would be cool to do on the previous generation of consoles. And I mean, arguably, you could say buy all your games on Steam, which is great. And I mean, that's awesome. My Steam library sticks with me everywhere I go. But my worry is, buying a game on Steam instead of buying a game on a console is that, say I want to go back to it 20 years later. is that going to be possible on computers? Well, probably not. I mean, like, you try and play Grim Fandango on a modern PC, and it's basically impossible. Like, I managed to get the game to run, which was a lot of work, and then, you know, that once I got it to run, it didn't, there were points in the game where it was like very timing specific that basically just it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work on modern PCs for whatever reason. So, I mean, that sucks. That sucks for me because it's like, hey, I want to play Grim Fandango, and then it's a constant headache and nightmare. And I managed to make it through, but I think I had to use some, like, download some saves to get past the points where I got stuck because of the timing. And, like, I was trying to get the Neverhood running, and I think I ended up having to do it in, like, a virtual PC instance with, like, a Windows 98 machine or something, which, again, is really hard because you can't display the web in a Windows 98 machine. Like, oh, I'll just download whatever, you know, virtual drivers or whatever software updates I need on my Windows 98, you know, virtual machine. And it's like, nope, can't browse the web, can't download new things, you can't find new apps that will run in Windows 98. So it's sort of a scary, bleak future while I worry. And, you know, again, maybe things will change with PC. I mean, certainly, you know, maybe virtualization will get better or whatever. But I mean, like, you know, people say, oh, DOSBox, you know, that'll work. But I think when you're just emulating DOS, it's like that's pretty easy. But if you have to emulate Windows 98, you know, that's a lot harder. And you know, the march forward with progress, you know, it's quite possible that, you know, computer systems will get different, and you know, I don't know if people will go back and make sure their games run. I mean, even looking at retrograde, like, we occasionally have, like, black screen problems with certain drivers or certain, I don't even know what, and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to fix this, I don't have their hardware, it works for me on my machine, and you know, I mean, but, like, I don't know, in 15 years, will I have the retrograde source code? Will I lose it to a hard disk crash? I mean, I hope not. I don't know. Probably should take more precautions and whatnot, but it's like, you know, and then it's hard to, you know, you don't have the right development tools. Like, we stuck with Visual Studio 2005 for retrograde, and so it's like, say, you know, 10 years from now, am I going to be able to run Visual Studio 2005? I don't know. Anyway, to some extent, this is a little tangential to what I was saying, but I think, you know, consoles give you the ability to play your games always, which is great. But the problem is, they don't, well, they give you the experience of playing the game always on that hardware, but they don't give it to you forever, or, you know, on that console piece of hardware. So if your physical hardware dies, you're screwed. So I mean, like, I think backwards compatibility is going to be really important moving forward. And I think both Sony and Microsoft realize that, and I think that's why they stuck with an x86 architecture. Because, you know, or, well, I guess they didn't stick with, why they changed to an x86 architecture. Because x86 is the king of backwards compatibility. Like, it is crazy how much effort Intel puts to making x86, you know, work with extremely old, you know, terribly dysfunctional instruction sets, and, you know, like, x86, it just works, which is sort of a miracle. So, I mean, I think x86, and also the other thing is, you know, it's a safe bet, right? Like, you know, power architecture, like, how dedicated is IBM going to be, you know, to power in 5 years, in 10 years, you know, are they going to be putting as much resources into it then as they are now? And, you know, but you know x86 is going to be around. I mean, it's, you know, going to be x86 and ARM forever, I think. You know, I'm sure one would like to kill the other, but I'm not sure that's ever going to happen either way, but I mean, x86 wants to get into mobile, and I think they have some x86 phones and tablets and stuff, and they're really doing a lot with the power consumption. But you know, I mean, ARM definitely has some advantages with respect to that, and certainly x86 is very, you know, high performance, and all the high end stuff uses x86. So, but anyway, you know, I think the idea of just creating, you know, less expensive hardware and updating it more frequently is beneficial to both consumers and to console manufacturers. Console manufacturers get to sell more things. They're selling something, you know, new. And I think to some extent, right, like, that means you have to spend a lot less money on researching the hardware and designing these extremely exotic and complex systems. You know, you can just take off-the-shelf parts, package it into a box, and put your software, system software on it, and let people play games. And I think, you know, that's appealing, is the idea of being able to stick with your, you know, game playing device, you know, that brand, and then keep putting in the new games. And I think they'll get, you know, quite a bit of buy-in. I mean, like, you know, iOS versus Android, you have all your apps on one, then it's tougher to switch to the other, which I think, you know, is what people want and what people worry about when new generations come around. But I mean, and then also the idea of having your old games play better, I think is appealing to both, you know, developers and consumers. Because I mean, you look at the last gen hardware, you know, Xbox 360 and the PS3 at the tail end of the life cycle, right? Like, you know, they did some amazing things. You look at Last of Us, and it looks phenomenal. But, I mean, like, just think what they could have done, you know, if they could have unlocked, you know, modern PC hardware, or, you know, if it could run on the PS4. You know, I think it would, you know, look mind-blowing. And so, I mean, it's nice to, you know, on PC games, I like running, you know, I play some old ones sometimes, and I like turning up all the graphics settings and be like, yeah, this looks cool. But also I don't like fiddling with graphics settings, you know, to get 60. So I mean, the idea of, you know, a console or sort of a target. So like, for example, I have my game, it runs on, you know, Xbox, well, the fictitious, or let's say Ouya, you know, my game runs on Ouya, and, which it does, and, you know, assuming there's an Ouya 2, I mean, not the black one with the better controller or whatever, but like an actual, you know, let's say Tegra 4 or Tegra K1 or whatever, you know, I don't know what they're going to put in it, but, you know, something better than the Tegra 3, you know, I can make settings, and I can say, you know, on this settings, Neverending Nightmares runs, you know, like I said many times, we're 720p 30 on Ouya. But Ouya 2, maybe we're 1080p 60, maybe we're 1080p 30, I don't know, I can figure out exactly how to make the game look the best, and then set it up for that on the Ouya 2, and then no one has to fiddle with graphics settings, and, you know, not very much extra work for me, and I get to, you know, have these, you know, better experiences for people who have the newer hardware. Anyway, I feel like I got off topic a lot there, but I just think, you know, the incremental update, and, you know, even like Steam machines, you know, if that somehow becomes more like a console, you know, I think that sort of incremental updates and guaranteeing compatibility, because, I mean, certainly, you know, if they fork the Linux or whatever, I'm sure they can run, you know, old SteamOS in a virtual machine easily, and make sure, you know, games have their compatibility flag set. So I mean, like, I think the console model is great for things always working, and you know, having the incremental you know, hardware and software updates is beneficial for developers, consumers, and manufacturers. Because, I mean, you look at Apple, they're selling billions of iPads every second. I don't know. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents on next gen, and I think, you know, everyone is sort of looking in that way, especially when people say, consoles are dead, PC is king, and it's like, well, you know, maybe consoles are just PCs with, you know, fixed configurations. I mean, that's essentially what tablets are. I guess they run ARM, but blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm sure you've heard enough from me. So, thanks for watching.